A woman named Ferdoni is living in Kosovo, the middle of a peaceful, beautiful town that was tucked between wooded hills and quiet streams. There is ivy and white roses all over her house, which showed how beautiful nature and time could be. With its thatched roof and walls that seemed to warp around the cottage yard, it was a charming haven that summed up the ideal way of life. But Ferdoni herself had become the mysterious talk of the town because of the strange ways she ate. Ferdoni would eat dinner by herself every night at her simple wooden table, which her late husband had built. When the sun kissed the sky in soft orange and purple hues, the table was always set for 5, with 4 empty plates shining in the soft, flickering candlelight. This routine brought back sad memories for her. People in the town couldn't help but wonder what the strange habit was. The neighborhood was filled with rumors, like leaves being blown by the wind. She was new at the place. Nobody knew her story. Some people thought it was a strange custom that had been passed down from generation to generation, while others thought Ferdoni had gone crazy. But the truth was deeper and more heartbreaking than anyone thought. The strange way Ferdoni ate made people in the town curious. People, including neighbors, friends, and strangers, talked quietly about her strange habit, trying to figure out why she would set tables for 4 people when she always ate by herself. Tani, her next-door neighbor, couldn't hold back her interest any longer. One Sunday morning, as Ferdoni took care of her flowering yard, he walked up to her with a friendly smile on his face and real worry in his eyes. "Ferdoni," he said, "I hope you don't mind me asking, but why do you set the table for 5 every night when it's just you dining?" Ferdoni stopped and ran her fingers along the petals of a bright red rose. She finally looked up, and there was a hint of sadness in her eyes. She said, "It's tradition." Her voice shaking with the weight of memories. "A tradition and a reminder of my family. A family I've lost." As Ferdoni spoke, the sunlight filtered through the leaves and made dappled shadows on the garden path. Her voice was a mix of longing and sadness. "Look, Mr. Tani, these chairs used to be full of my husband and my 3 sons. This table was where we shared our stories, laughs and hopes. They were the heart and soul of this house." While he listened, Mr. Tani's eyes filled with tears of understanding. His heart hurt for Ferdoni's pain. In a soft way, he touched her on the shoulder. "I am truly sorry, Ferdoni. I didn't know." Ferdoni gave a small, thankful smile. "My dear Mr. Johnson, it's a story of love, war, pain, and loss. And every night while I sit down at this table, I feel their love, presence, and memories filling the empty chairs. It's how I stay close to them and make sure they're never really gone." As Mr. Tani left, he couldn't help but think about how strong it must be to deal with such deep sadness every day. Ferdoni's story was like a word from the past. It reminded everyone in town that there was a story waiting to be found behind every closed door and strange habit. Ferdoni was known as the town's quiet woman. Her house was a living mystery. People in the town looked at her with a mix of interest and respect, because she was so graceful in every move. She did her daily tasks with a graceful ease that seemed to come from her very being. Her long dark mahogany hair fell in a waterfall-like style, and as she moved, her black dress whispered quietly, as if everyone around her was afraid to break the silence that was around her. Her silence was deep, and she didn't say much. It was like she was carrying an unsaid weight on her shoulders. People in the town often thought about the stories she must have inside her, stories that were written in her face lines and the depths of her emerald eyes. A child from the neighborhood came up to Ferdoni one Sunday afternoon while she was busy taking care of her yard. The child moved closer. He saw her hair is in a mess of unruly curls and eyes sparkling with young curiosity. "Miss Ferdoni," the child asked with some wonder in their voice, "why do you never talk to anyone? You're like a puzzle." Ferdoni got on her knees next to the child. The soft, wet grass between her knees made them feel better. There was a lot of sadness and knowledge in her green eyes that she didn't say. The woman reached out and caressed a soft rose petal. For a moment, it seemed like the touch gave her comfort. "Sometimes, dear," she began, her voice as soft as a breeze, "pain is so deep that words can't describe it. My heart hurts so much, but remembering the good times helps me feel better. They are the friends I value most." The child looked at her, feeling both interested and smarter now that they knew more. "It taught me how beautiful quiet strength can be. and how deep the feelings that people hold inside their heart can go. A famous local artist named Mia started an amazing project one sunny spring day, an exhibition that would show the lives and hidden stories of the people in the town. Mia was interested in Ferdoni's strange dinner routine. After hearing about it, she thought that everyone had a story to tell, and that story should be told to the world through her art. With a soft smile, Mia walked up to Ferdoni with her camera hanging around her neck, like a precious stone. Her dark brown eyes had a spark of joy in them. "Ferdoni," she said, her voice warm and interested, "I've heard about your unique dinner table, and I'm fascinated by the story behind it. I would love to have you in my future art show." Ferdoni's eyes got big with surprise, and there was a hint of hope in them. She felt like someone might finally understand her story and give words to her pain for the first time in years. With a sincere nod, she said yes, excited about the chance to let everyone into her painful world. Mia's smile grew bigger as she thought about how much Ferdoni trusted her. She knew that Ferdoni's story would contain a lot of feelings and events that would make for a very moving piece of art. Both the artist and the woman, who had become a town secret, worked together because they knew how powerful stories and art could be. When Ferdoni got an invitation from Mia written by hand, she was surprised. The note was carefully written and said, "To Ferdoni, the keeper of secrets and the bearer of a story untold. Your story should be heard." She felt a lot of different things as she read those words, and tears came from her eyes. Ferdoni accepted the offer, her fingers shaking a little as she held the paper later. She wanted to tell everyone her story and make sure that her family would never be forgotten. She felt a spark of hope grow inside her with each breath, the hope that her story would finally help heal her broken heart. She knew that when she worked on Mia's project, she was not only showing her own pain, but also remembering her family and all similar cases. Her life had been shaped by love and sadness, and the show would honor those things. She decided to tell her story with a courage she didn't know she had. By doing so, she would start a healing and changing journey that would affect not only her life, but also the lives of those who saw it. People from the town, invited guests, were packed into the small, cozy space on the night of the gallery opening. Their faces lit up with excitement. Ferdoni stood next to her beautiful pictures, wearing a simple but classy dress. The painting showed her sitting at her table by herself, with the 4 empty chairs being cast in long, dancing shadows by the burning candles. Guests from the town walked through the gallery, and Mia saw their faces change from interest to confusion as they looked around. You could tell that the picture alone wasn't enough to fully understand Ferdoni's story. People at the show talked quietly to each other as they tried to figure out what Ferdoni's picture meant. A couple in their 40s or 50s stood in front of it and talked quietly. The husband looked at the picture with squinted eyes and asked, "What do you think this means, Marta?" Marta made a frown and knitted her eyebrows as she thought. "It's not clear to me. I can't figure out what's going on with that hauntingly beautiful picture. What's with the empty chairs and the fact that she's the only one at the table?" Eden gave a shrug, his interest aroused. "I suppose we'll find out when she speaks." Mia walked up to Ferdoni with a soft smile when she saw how confused everyone was. "Ferdoni," she told her, "the guests are interested. Would you be willing to tell them your story? It could help them understand." Ferdoni thought about it for a moment, while twirling a loose hair in her fingers. She knew this was her chance to tell everyone what was really going on with the empty chairs and her grief. As she agreed, her hands started to shake. She spoke up. Her voice was weak and soft. She talked about the terrible things that had happened in her life, and her words painted a clear picture of her unbearable losses. She lost her 2 boys in the Serbia-Kosovo War in 1999. Her eyes filled with tears as she remembered their hopes and dreams as kids and the day they never came back. She talked about the day in the same year when her husband and another son were kidnapped and went missing in the same war, leaving her to deal with her loss on her own. As she buried the 2 sons, she never stopped searching for her husband and her lost son, but never got an answer where they were sent. When Ferdoni spoke, her words filled the room with silence, and those who were quick to judge her strange dinner routine shed tears. "From the moment I lost them, I never stopped putting food on the table for 5 people. As we were once a happy family full of joy and happiness, the dinner was the time we all got together from work school, and was the only moment all of us would sit, eat, and talk about our day together. It was the spirit of the family. I will continue to prepare the table for 5 people because it heals my heart. At least I can imagine, at least I can close my eyes and hear their voices, their laughter, their complaints, their happiness, sadness, bad days, good days, new challenges, and everything they shared with me. The room was filled with the sound of quiet tears as Ferdoni told her heartbreaking story. People who had first wondered what Ferdoni's eating habits meant were deeply moved by her story. At that moment, her empty plates stood for more than just the loss. They stood for love and longing that went beyond space and time. People passed tissues around and hugged each other, even though they didn't know each other, because they both felt Ferdoni's pain. The room had changed from a place of confusion to one of kindness and understanding as Ferdoni's story went on. It brought the people who were once perplexed together. It reminded them all how fragile life is, how bad war is, and how strong the human spirit can be in the face of unimaginable loss. As Mia looked through her camera at this emotional change, she couldn't help but feel happy. Art and stories had brought strangers together in the deepest way, and she knew that Ferdoni's story had reached people outside of her small town. A story of Ferdoni showed how much she loved her family. Every night, she set the table for them and kept their memories alive in her heart. The empty chairs stood for her unwavering faith that they would come back one day. As she set the table and lit the candles every night, she mumbled their names into the silence as if she were calling them back from the depths of time. As the days went by after the show, Ferdoni's neighbors and friends began to understand the deep meaning of her routine. Her empty plates, which used to be a source of confusion, had become a deep symbol of love that went beyond place and time. Mia's project had gone in the direction she hadn't planned. People in the room started to feel Ferdoni's pain. The picture of her had become a sign of love and sadness that moved everyone who saw it. The people in the town started to respect and care about Ferdoni more. They knew that her strange thing she did was a powerful and moving way for her to show how much she loved her family, who died in the war. The neighbors, who had been quiet before, now stopped to say hello and offer their support. Ferdoni felt better after telling her story, because people understood her and became friends and shared their gift and stories with her. People in the neighborhood came together to help her and be with her. She became very close with neighbors she had barely talked to before, and they all joined her in her nightly ritual, filling the empty chairs with their presence. Ferdoni had her new friends over for dinner in her yard one summer evening. The garden, which used to be a place of solace, was now filled with the sounds of new friends. Ferdoni's strength and the way the town came together to support her made people want to find her lost family members again. The town, which used to be very quiet about the terrible things happening in the war, is now working hard to remember all the victims of the horrible past. She left a mark on more than just the town she lived in. People from all over the world saw it and remembered that the power of the human spirit can get through the worst things. People from all over the world looked at Ferdoni's story for inspiration, and her practice of setting a table for her dead family members became a worldwide sign of strength and remembering. Because the people in the town were so close to each other and cared about each other, it continued to do well. People who used to just know each other as neighbors became lasting friends because they had so many things in common. Even though Ferdoni's yard was full of bright flowers and laughter, it was still a holy place. People told stories, kids played, and Ferdoni's family memories were celebrated there. On special occasions, people from the town would meet in her garden and eat dinner under the stars, just like Ferdoni did with her dead loved ones. People from all over the world, not just their town, continued to be moved and inspired by Mia's art. Like Ferdoni's story, her photos showed how powerful stories can be and how art can bring people together and heal scars.